The Princess and the Pooh, a guinea pig fairy tale written and illustrated by Scotty Hale from Scotty's Animals. Dedicated to all the animals and those who care for them. Once upon a time, in the kingdom of animals, a family of guinea pigs lived in a castle and sat on their thrones. Queen Irene could tell that her son, Prince Leo, was not his usual happy self. She had not seen him pop-run in days, not when the fool told his jokes, not when the fool sang his songs, and not after the rainstorm when the rainbow appeared over the mountain. The prince was sad. Prince Leo was lonely, even with so many friends and family around to cheer him up. You see, the prince wanted to find a princess to love and adore, someone to share his life with and eventually share his kingdom. The queen reminded him that she did not wish to rule on the throne forever, that in fact, she wanted to go on vacation. She wanted to see the world, to meet new animals, and to taste different foods in the far-off lands. She dreamed of curry and cayenne pepper. She was tired of the same old food prepared by the castle chef. When you become King Leo, my boy, I can finally travel the world and taste what it has to offer. Did you know there are more kinds of hay grasses and stars in the sky? Leo nodded, for Queen Irene had told him this many times before. And I will taste them all someday, but first we must find your princess. They had been trying for some time to find a real princess, one who would compliment Prince Leo. Leo was kind and honest, and real princesses were not easy to find. Many beautiful piggies came to the kingdom claiming to be princesses. Some of them acted very princess-like at first, but soon they were rude to Leo and made him cry. A real princess is sensitive. A real princess is hard to find. The queen, ever hungry, does not wish to stay. She wants to travel the world and taste different hay. But before she can go, she must find a princess. She wants to taste exciting new flavors, but indeed, I digress. Leo, the prince, is lonely and sad he does feel. For we must find a true princess, and that is real. Knock, knock. Just as a fool who was not so foolish indeed was finishing his song, there was a knock at the castle door. Hello? Spoke a soft voice from the other side. My horse is stuck in the mud by the river. Would someone be able to help me get him unstuck? Prince Leo's sad expression turned to his surprise, and then to determination, for helping damsels in distress is what princes like Leo lived for. Yes, I can help you, Leo shouted through the door. Open it, silly boy, instructed his mother. Let's just see who this is. Leo slowly opened the big heavy door to find the kindest face he had ever seen. I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Petunia. Princess Petunia. My horse has gotten himself stuck in the mud by the river. I'd be so grateful for your assistance. She could barely finish speaking before Leo grabbed her hand and they were running through the grass toward the river. If I don't return home soon, my father will worry. I'm almost a day's ride away from home, and I promised my father I would be home soon. When they arrived at the riverbank, Leo could see the horse was indeed stuck. The horse was nervous and would not stop jabbering. I told her it was muddy here. I told her I was too heavy. I shouldn't have eaten all those carrots, but I ate them anyway. She wanted to see the flowers by the river. I said we were too close. I knew I would sink, and now I'm stuck. And on he lamented. Does your horse always talk this much? Yes, said Petunia. Henry has always been a worrier. Well, we better start digging. With the two of us, it won't be so bad. As they dug, they talked and got to know each other. They learned that they had many things in common aside from being a prince and a princess. Princess Petunia told Leo about how she loved to ride Henry through the forest and smell the air and listen to the animals, each with their own unique voices. In the trees, the birds sing their songs to welcome me and share their stories. In the grass, the crickets chirp and the butterflies flap their colorful wings. By the river, the frogs croak, the ducks quack, and the water makes circles when the dragonflies tap the surface on their way, buzzing all the while. I love the forest too, agreed Leo. It's where I come to think and where I go when I'm feeling sad and lonely. Although Leo didn't feel lonely today. Today he met Petunia. As they talked, they dug Henry free. With a scoop of mud, Henry seemed to become less nervous. Henry stopped mumbling and he listened to Leo and Petunia share their stories. He could tell they liked each other. It didn't seem like very long, but when they finally pulled Henry from his muddy hole, the sun was going down. You're free, Leo said triumphantly, but you need a bath. I'll just run through the river to get myself clean, said Henry. Nonsense. My mother has some of the most wonderful smelling soaps with scents of lavender and honeysuckle. Besides, it's getting dark and we should be getting back to the castle. My father must be so worried, said Petunia. I promised I would be home by now. Petunia's mother had died the summer before, and since then her father, King William, had been even more overprotective of Petunia than before. Don't worry, we can send a message with Rufus. He was the owl who lived in the tree by the barn. He will be out flying in the night anyway, and I'm sure he won't mind. After his bath, Henry was comfortably munching on some fresh hay. He had asked for Timothy hay instead of oat hay because he was still feeling a bit self-conscious about his weight. Petunia tried to reassure him that even a field mouse would have gotten stuck in that mud. Later, a letter was attached to a beautiful mahogany screech owl who, despite this misnomer, had a wonderful singing voice. Petunia explained how she had gotten stuck in the mud but was safe now at the castle with the Prince Leo and Queen Irene. Princess Petunia sat with Leo and his mother. She gracefully entertained all manner of questions and prodding from the Queen. Why have I not heard of your kingdom, Petunia? Why do I not know your father? His name is King William, you say. I do not know, your highness. We are a small kingdom, where the two rivers meet beyond the meadow in the forest of pine. The truth was, Queen Irene very well may have heard of her kingdom, and her father, who preferred to be called King Billy instead of King William, because like his daughter, he was very kind and approachable. But Her Majesty was almost certainly preoccupied with other things. Like King Billy, she had lost her husband, Leo's father, but more time had passed since then, and the sadness and loneliness had turned into a preoccupation with travel and a longing to explore new places and discover their cultures, chiefly strange foods and unfamiliar flavors. The candles around the table had dripped and dribbled with the passage of the hours, and Petunia could barely keep her eyes open. She began to yawn, which stopped the Queen in the middle of a question. Prince Leo could also see that she was sleepy. Let her stay the night, Mother. The Queen agreed, because she knew a way to prove if Petunia was telling the truth. A way to find out if Petunia was really a princess. She planned to test so-called Princess Petunia. Many have come before her claiming to be princesses, but turned out not to be, for they could not pass this one simple test. Get me 100 fleece pads and we will stack them all. This will be the softest bed you have ever felt, said the Queen. Before the Queen could snap her fingers, 100 of the finest fleece pads with the most beautiful colors were piled in front of her. Her Majesty smiled when no one was looking. She took an old dried poop from her cuddle cup and placed it under the bottom fleece. I do wish you a very good night's sleep and sweet dreams, said the Queen. Sleep well, for in the morning we will have breakfast, and I will make an announcement. Good night, said Petunia. She said goodnight to Leo, kissing him on the cheek, and he smiled sheepishly. Good night, Petunia. See you in the morning. Leo slept well, dreaming of events of the day, of Petunia and all the stories they shared. He dreamed about walking in the woods with her, pointing out flowers and the birds and trees he had climbed as a boy. Petunia, on the other hand, did not sleep well at all. In fact, no matter how she tossed and turned, she couldn't fall asleep for a second. She could not get comfortable. She felt bad because the queen had gone through all that trouble to make her such a soft bed with so many beautiful fleeces. She tried counting them, but still couldn't sleep. She wondered if the fleece pads were filled with rocks, but thought that was silly. Still, something was poking her back and making her awfully sore. Finally, the morning came. A bell rang, which called her to breakfast. Poor Petunia climbed down from the tower of fleece and went to sit at the breakfast table. Leo was smiling. He was excited for a new day. Petunia plopped down with a sigh. Queen Irene inquired, "You look awful. Didn't you sleep well?" "Well, said Petunia when the queen interrupted. "With all those fine fleeces, I would think you would have slept like a baby." "I don't know," said Petunia. "I just couldn't get comfortable. Something was digging into my back. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't sleep. It felt like I was sleeping on a rock." "A rock, you say?" inquired the queen. "How interesting." "It felt like I was being poked by a stick, like something was digging into my back," said Petunia. "But those are the softest fleeces in the kingdom," said the queen. "Well, it felt like I was sleeping on a stone." Queen Irene was convinced. Only a real princess would be so sensitive as to feel a single poop under all those fleece pads. "I am so sorry about that. Next time I will sew you a cuddle cup myself, with the softest cotton. That is if you want to stay with us again." The queen was an excellent seamstress. "You are welcome any time, Princess Petunia." That was the first time the queen had acknowledged that Petunia was indeed a real princess. "I do hope so," said Leo. "I hope we can spend more time together and get to know each other. Maybe we can go for a walk in the woods," said Petunia. "I'd like that very much," said Leo. They ate breakfast and Petunia started to feel much better. Then the sound of a horn could be heard coming from the sky. The long, majestic blast of a trumpet bellowed from the clouds. Everyone rushed outside to see what was happening. Henry the horse neighed and whinnied. The sun was shining through the clouds, and the wind was blowing from where the two rivers meet past the meadow and the forest of pine. Something was coming out through the clouds. It was a big hot air balloon with bright colors and the royal crest of Kingdom of Billy. "Hello down there," called King Billy. "I'm looking for my daughter, Petunia. I received a letter from a very kind owl who informed me that she was in another kingdom." "She is here," shouted Leo. "Daddy," called Petunia, "here I am." The queen was astonished. There was so much excitement and she wasn't used to it. The balloon lowered and touched down as King Billy extinguished the fire under the giant balloon. The balloon deflated and fell to the grass as His Majesty hopped out of the basket and bowed in reverence to Queen Irene. "I'm King Billy. I live in a castle past where the two rivers join, beyond the meadow in the forest of pine." His eyes twinkled and Queen Irene was enamored. "Yes, I have heard of you, Your Highness," Queen Irene fibbed, "but I'd love to hear more. You have a very pleasant daughter, and it has been a wonderful having her here. She is welcome any time, as are you, Your Majesty." "Please, call me Billy," said the king. The queen smiled. So did Petunia, and so did Leo. The fool, who was not so foolish, clapped and began to sing. "Friends gather round, for I'm inspired to sing a tune. What a surprise that out of the sky appeared a big balloon. From a far-off land His Majesty arrived. Our kingdom had been excitement deprived. Oh, how boring and dull it has been. Petunia is a princess. Let's end the debate. Now it's time to celebrate. Hooray! Shall we return home now, Petunia? King Billy asked. I promised Leo we would go for a walk in the woods together. I'll come home later, Father, Petunia said. Leo smiled. I could ride back with you to make sure you make it home safely, he said. Petunia smiled. It is such a wonderful day for a balloon ride. It would have been nice to have some company. King Billy looked at Queen Irene and said, What about you, Your Majesty? Got any plans for the afternoon? Would you fancy a balloon ride? The winds began to shift as if on command. Now they were blowing toward where the two rivers meet beyond the meadow and the forest of pine. There's nothing in the world quite like a balloon ride, said King Billy. Seeing everything from high above, it's wonderful. Well, I don't know. I've never been in a balloon before. I've never really left my kingdom. Queen Irene was a bit nervous at the idea, but then she realized that traveling to a faraway place and seeing the world was what she always wanted. And what a better way than by a hot air balloon, she thought. Okay, she said, let's go. Wonderful, said King Billy. He clapped his paws together and they both climbed into the basket. King Billy rekindled the fire and hot air began to fill the balloon. Soon it was full of air and steadily hovered above the basket. With one more tug on the string, the fire belched and the basket began to lift off the grass. Queen Irene was full of excitement. Henry the horse neighed and whinnied, and the fool began to play the lute. Leo and Petunia smiled. Leo reached out his paw, and Petunia put her paw in his. When we get back to my castle, the king said, I will prepare us a feast. I love to collect spices for my travels in the balloon. I hope you will be hungry, Queen Irene just smiled. Leo and Petunia watched the balloon disappear into the clouds, and the fool began to sing. Princess Petunia had passed the queen's test. She tossed and she turned when she lay down to rest. She couldn't sleep or get a moment of peace because Queen Irene placed a poop under the fleece. Now Prince Leo had finally found his princess. From the forest of pine across the green grasses, two kingdoms combined and fates intertwined. When a horse sank in the mud as thick as molasses. The end. Hi everyone, I'm Leah from Fitz's Guinea Vision. I wanted to do this story time in the dark so that when you hear the story, you can close your eyes and use your imagination and you can picture what these characters would look like and what the surroundings would look like. And I just thought it would be a very beautiful thing. I hope you enjoyed this. If you stayed until the very end, thank you very much. And if you didn't, that's okay too. I understand. Alright everyone, have a wonderful night. Sweet sleep.